Hello, everyone, and welcome to IFMA's Wednesday webinar series. We are so glad to have you with us today. We're excited to be hosting today's webinar in partnership with Green Standards. And today we'll be talking about the social impact of reuse, a national roundtable. Today's session is designed to be engaging and conversational, so we really encourage you to jump in, ask questions, share insights, and participate in this discussion. A quick housekeeping note before we begin. Today's session will be recorded, so all registrants will receive a link to the recording via email following the webinar. So as we get started, I want to go ahead and encourage you to warm up your keyboards, drop a note and a comment. Let us know where you're joining us from. I am joining today from sunny Houston, Texas. And without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Sarah Ehrenberg with Green Standards. Sarah, welcome.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Sarah, the head of community impact at Green Standards. I'll be moderating today's panel about in-kind donations and what meaningful giving really can look like when they're on the ground. So here at Green Standards, we work with organizations during office decommissions. Whether it's renovations, closures, relocations, we help to divert furniture, equipment, and materials from landfill. When possible, our goal is to get those items into the hands of nonprofits, charities, and schools that can truly use them. One of the biggest lessons we've learned is that successful giving is about partnerships. When donors and nonprofits are aligned on needs, timings, capacity, donations can go much farther and create real lasting impact. So that's why today's conversation is so important. We're bringing together 4 nonprofits from different regions and different missions to talk honestly about what kind of donations actually make a difference and how they can get used across different industries. And at the end of the day, what we'd love for donors to understand from this process. So we really want to help organizations think more intentionally about giving so that when donations can happen, they're not just diverted, but they're delivered with purpose and with impact. So today you'll hear from representatives from CUNY City Tech in New York, Make It Home in San Fran, Teachers Treasures in Indianapolis, and Reboot Canada in Toronto. Each of them have worked with very different communities, but all share firsthand experience with the realities of in-kind giving. So before we dive in, I'm just going to say, please feel free to get involved with us. There are no right or wrong answers today. It's just real perspectives. We hope that you all can listen to this and walk away with some practical insights that you can apply the next time you're thinking about what you need to do when you're looking to clear a space. So with that, we're going to get started and I'll help to introduce, some of the different teams along the way and each one can speak for themselves. So first up, we have Jose. Jose, over to you.
Everyone, I'm joining in from Brooklyn, New York. My name is Jose Diaz. I'm the Director of Academic Technologies and Online Learning at the New York City College of Technology, also known as City Tech. We are located in downtown Brooklyn at the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge. It is the largest public college of technology in the Northeast. We are part of the City University of New York, also known as CUNY, which is the largest urban public university system in the United States. The CUNY system comprises of 25 institutions across the 5 boroughs of New York City. We serve around 240,000 degree-seeking students. The Department of Academic Technologies and Online Learning supports the faculty and our students in achieving excellence in technology-enhanced teaching and learning. We also manage 3 computer labs, and we offer workshops for both faculty and students, and we provide developmental programs focused on effective online teaching. Thank you for having me.
Great, thanks, Jose. Next up, we've got Carolyn from Make It Home.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Sarah, for inviting me to be part of the panel. I'm the founder of Make It Home. We are a furniture bank in Northern California, and we started the organization about 5 years ago, and we're one of the few furniture banks in California. There are furniture banks all over the United States, but there's only about 10 on the West Coast. And what we do is we take in gently used furnishings and then we give them back out to people in need who don't have any furniture, like domestic abuse victims, foster kids aging out, homeless to home, veterans, flood victims, you name it. Anybody who doesn't have furniture is eligible to receive our services. So the goal is to save furniture from the landfill while fighting the effects of furniture poverty, which is a pretty quiet problem behind closed doors. But if you can imagine not having a bed to sleep in, it's pretty important to get everybody who needs furniture the items that they need. So we're able to take used items from all different resources, including decommissioned offices, and use those to furnish homes as well as community spaces. So I'm excited to be here and join all of you today. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Now we've got Zach to introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Zach Hall, Director of Logistics at Teachers Treasures in Indianapolis, Indiana. We are a charity that provides free school supplies to teachers at schools of need in Marion County. Realistically, it's Indianapolis. And we think of school supplies as a very broad term. We will give everything from office supplies to crayons, colored pencils, markers, furniture that was just being spoken about, cleaning supplies, really anything that we can get our hands on to help teachers provide the highest quality education possible. We work with local companies in our area. We work with our community, individual donors that are able to bring things to our door. And we do whatever we can to keep anything out of landfills and provide it to our teachers. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Zach. And now we've got Frank from Reboot.
Hi there. Hello, everybody. And it's great to join all of you. Thank you, IFMA, and thank you, Green Standards, for the opportunity to be part of the panel. And thanks to Zach and Jose and Carolyn for the excellent work that you're doing in the community. And it's humbling to be part of this chat today. Reboot Canada has been around for about 30 years. I've been involved for about 10 years. I'm in Toronto right now. We have an office in Vancouver, and what we focus on is digital equity. And so that's access to laptop, it's access to the internet, and it's a recognition that without those tools, it's very difficult to survive and thrive and succeed in the digital economy. So in Canada, we're probably going to annually we'll probably be helping about 1,500 families with laptops. We'll serve about 10,000 people on an annual basis with access to free Wi-Fi, and we provide skills development opportunities as well. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have.
Perfect, thank you. Well, a big thank you to all of you for being brave and hopping on here with me. I know that sometimes it's a bit scary. You don't know who we're talking to, but I'm really excited to unfold some of our secrets, so to speak, so that we can help others learn about how giving back is a really viable solution when it comes to clearing out an office space or a warehouse space or even classroom spaces. So many items do have value in repurposing and don't have to just end when your space needs to be cleared. Mm-hmm. So you've all now introduced yourselves. I've had the great pleasure of working with all 4 of these organizations over the last few years, but some of them have actually been working with Green Standards predating me, even though I've been here about 7 years. But I was wondering if any of you could chime in. Do you remember first getting connected with Green Standards, and what were your initial thoughts hearing about this program?
We were so excited to connect with Green Standards because we will use anything and everything that we possibly can. And one of the things that we do often is link furnishings with other nonprofits. So it's super sad to walk into a nonprofit office and see them using janky folding office chairs and crappy folding tables from somebody's thrown away Office Depot purchase a million years ago. So being able to give people sit-stand desks, being able to give people ergonomic chairs, giving people, beautiful lounge furniture is just a huge win-win, and it makes everybody really happy. We do a lot of different community spaces as part of our work. So every single time we get those emails, we're like, hop on, what can we get?
Thanks. Anyone else remember their first contact upon hearing or learning about green standards?
Similarly to Carolyn, we're part of a conglomerate of charities that work with green standards. And so we heard about you guys from another one in Atlanta, and I had to jump on it when we heard the possibility of having things brought straight to us at no cost to us. So I had to get into that meeting and just hear if this was real, first of all. It sounded too good to be true. And then when I met Sarah, this was about 2 years ago now, I believe, and got into that interview or that meeting with you to see if we could qualify for this. And it was kind of game changing for us to hear that we could qualify for this and that it would be free of charge to us and that these items would come straight to our dock. And all we had to do was be able to unload items from a semi and get it into our building. That was incredible to us because as a small nonprofit like us, the logistics of going to buildings, taking it out and getting it to us can be quite insurmountable a lot of times. So that was massive for us.
Yeah, for us at City Tech, I believe the first contact with Green Standards was around 2023. I had just joined the job here at City Tech, and we were looking to reimagine the space in our labs, in our computer labs. And we didn't have the funding for new furniture, and so I went on to Google and searched, and there were several companies, but Green Standards stood out because, again, like echo Zach, they delivered the furniture to our building. We just had to bring it in. And at first I thought it was, some kind of scam, but, after the first shipment, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the next email, just to, to see what was out there that we can use at our school. And so from that point on, we were able to bring in gently used furniture, and we were able to reimagine the space for our students. And it was exciting because we were seeing students use the space in a new way that we had never thought possible. And none of that could have been done without the help of Green Standards.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of echo, I was very impressed. The first time Reboot Canada worked with Green Standards, it was before my time. It was like 2013. So it's been doing this for a while, and it certainly has some mature sort of processes. But what I was really impressed with was it was pretty frictionless. It was fast, but it was really frictionless. Like once there was an understanding of what the donation would entail and what sort of requirements were required on the receiving end, in terms of labor and just receiving processes, it turned into a very quick process, a very quick turnover, and it's been like that. Every single experience with Green Standards has been that kind of an experience. So for us, again, echoing with Zach and Jose and Carolyn as well, we're saying, like, from a resource standpoint, charities, it's quite easy to receive a check for something, and we, it's super important. It requires a little bit more effort and a little bit more resource management to receive in-kind donations and physical donations. So any time we can partner with organizations that will take some of that load off is super helpful.
Great. So thank you all for, chatting about those experiences, but I do want to open this up to be a bigger picture, more general idea as well. So when it does come to in-kind donations, what types of items genuinely are most useful for your organization? We purposely have 4 of you here from very different walks of life. So I do hope you each can speak to, what's most important to you guys so that people can get a true understanding that there's so much out there that does not need to be wasted, because there are so many varieties in what work is being done out there. So if you all could share, what's genuinely most useful for your organization when it comes to in-kind donations.
Well, we're in Q4, so if I could just, we definitely need i5 and i7 laptops that are 6th gen and newer. That's probably the gold standard of donations for us, and we're fortunate to have various sources for that. Also, monitors are actually something that are extremely important and come and go in waves, but that's something that any monitor over 21 inches is something that also has a lot of value for us.
Right. I think it's so interesting you say that, because often here I find people starting to say to us like, oh, people don't really need monitors. Everyone's just on a laptop now.
Wow.
But you're telling me the contrary. So I'm so glad that we're able to express that and show people there is still most definitely a need.
Especially for other NGOs, other charities, and other organizations that have things like internet cafe type situations or classrooms and so forth. They're really important.
Great.
Yeah. For us, I would have to say it's been the task chairs. People don't understand. Sometimes, I mean, if you've graduated from school, you haven't been back to school in a long time, you forget how many hours you spend sitting on a chair as a student. And so for us, having comfortable chairs was a big deal. And every time I see a task chair, on the list in the emails when we receive them from Green Standards, I try to jump on those first. We also are looking into tables, desks, sometimes sofas. We could use sofas because our faculty members in the lounge areas have these old couches, and sometimes we rather have something a little better, more comfortable. So those are the items that we tend to look at closely, are mostly chairs and desks and tables.
Great. And then Carolyn or Zach, I'd imagine it's similar but also really different needs, so would love to hear from you guys.
So for us at Make It Home, we can use the regular office furniture, but also the things that you wouldn't necessarily expect. If there's a kitchen or a cafe or a cafeteria situation, we can take all the dishes, the microwaves, glassware, silverware, all of those sort of things, because we do make kitchen kits for our clients and dining kits for our clients. All of those small bookcases, room dividers, we've got people living in small apartments, and sometimes there's two families living in a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment. So things that you wouldn't think of, we're doing a lot of transformation with furniture. So you might look at something and see just, if it's a file cabinet that I can pretend is a nightstand. I mean, if it's got the lock on it and the caster, it's pretty obvious that it's a file cabinet. That's not as useful for me. But if it's one of those fancy file cabinets that doesn't look like a file cabinet, I'm going to turn it into a nightstand. Tables that can be used, when the table behind me is a small, something that you would have in your office, a small conference table, but I'm turning those into dining tables, kitchen tables every day. Stackable chairs are awesome because they're great for us for storage space, because we can store a lot of them. And then they're easy, to give away in sets of 4 and 6 and 8. Bookshelves, small sofas, small easy chairs, ottomans, side tables, you name it. We can take anything and everything that will fit in a small apartment, along with the regular task chairs and desks and those kinds of things. So just be creative.
Perfect.
Yeah, I wish I could say that there was one catch-all item that encompassed all teachers' needs. If I were to guess, I would probably say copy paper would be the really expensive item that all teachers needed that would really help our mission go forward. But if I'm thinking about a math teacher versus an art teacher versus a shop teacher versus a PE teacher, it's really hard to say what that one item that hits all of those categories. So it really is anything and everything, to echo what Carolyn is saying. Our real limit is size. So all of the furniture that Carolyn was saying, plus all of the technology that Frank or Francisco and Jose were saying, plus the cleaning supplies and containers and pens, pencils, markers, colored pencils, crayons. So when we look into a space, we are going in with the intent of helping you clear out everything that you can and getting all of that into the hands of teachers, and looking for that win-win on both sides of this coin, and leaving as little work as possible for the facility managers to deal with at the end of what goes to a landfill, or what maybe they have to try to recycle, or they have to. So when your offers come, Sarah, we're clicking every box that we possibly can. And I'm apologizing to your people. Like, I'm sorry, I can't take that really big desk because my teachers can't get it out.
Which is fair, which is absolutely fair. You know, size is a limitation at the end of the day. We do our best to place and reuse as much as possible, but you know, times have also changed, spaces have changed, and we do the best we can. Some of us are great at DIY. Some of us, you know, look at it and say, you know what, this item has had a great life and we'll find the best possible use for recycle if we can't repurpose it. But thank you for touching on that, because you've all hit notes on something I've been trying to explain for the last 5 years I've been in this role as, you know, head of community engagement, but it's everything can be looked at in different ways. So Carolyn, you hit it with my exact comment that the table behind her, it might be sitting in the corner of an executive's office, but that's the perfect table for a family to eat together at, or for someone to do their homework at. And when I walk spaces and I see storage supplies bursting at the seams with boxes of pens amidst the cables and the wires, but then there's also stacks of paper, I remind them, I said, that's actually not junk. We just need to separate it. But there is so much value in that for people, you know, just like Zach, who are collecting for teachers. So thank you for pointing out that even the most minuscule items might have, you know, that second purpose. So on the flip side of that, do you find that you guys are approached by us or by other donors with items that are not actually helpful? Is there anything that you would want people to know, that while we appreciate it, you know, sometimes there are things that just maybe don't have a life with us?
I think I'm going to say something that Carolyn may not totally appreciate. It's items that are significantly worn in, and maybe totally at that end of life, that we try to keep a certain standard for our teachers. We want our teachers to feel valued. We don't want to be giving them those items that are junk. And what is junk, as Carolyn may be thinking in her head, and items that creates work for our team. So having items sorted out and not just taking a drawer of somebody's desk and dumped into a box that may be creating work for our small staff. While we're very fortunate and very grateful to receive those items, a little work on that front end, or a little help on that front end, may be a better way of phrasing that. Having those items pre-sorted and ready for us on the back end, so it's easy to get to the teachers, is always greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so at Make It Home, we have become extremely creative, and we do have a workshop where we can refinish and repair. But for example, I can't reupholster 10 stained easy chairs. I just don't have the bandwidth or the ability to get that done. So unfortunately, those are the kinds of things that we're not there. Those aren't helpful when they're so worn in. So our rule is, you know, we're trying to treat our families with dignity, just like Zach has said. Just because you don't have any furniture doesn't mean you want broken down, gross, dirty furniture. So I call it the mother-in-law test. I'm on my second marriage. I've had some very judgy mother-in-laws. So if you wouldn't ask your mother-in-law to sit in it, please don't give it to us.
I like that. Over here, I usually say to the move team, if you don't want to sit in it, they probably don't want to sit in it either. But I might ask them to start thinking about the mother-in-law rule instead.
Yeah, I mean, and if you are trying to punish your mother-in-law, then don't give it to us either.
I'll jump in here, but I would say also, I think Zach mentioned it, but it's items that might be too big. So we have to, although we would love to have the item, but we don't have the capability or the ability to bring it into the building or the manpower to like drag this big item into the place. So for that, sometimes we got to do a double take and just be sure that, first plan ahead, make sure you have the proper equipment to bring it in,
Mm-hmm.
and the right place to put it, because there's a lot of traffic in our schools. So we also got to think about where are we going to place the item. Is it going to cause problems? Are we blocking an exit or something? But going back to Sarah's point and Carolyn, I think we had a similar table that you have back there, but we used it as a collaboration or bring your own device table. And so, just to your point, Sarah, we did use it in a different way. We prohibit students from bringing food into the lab, but sometimes they'll sneak in some food, and they'll have food, But we were aiming to reimagine. We removed a whole aisle of computers because we were seeing students bring their own devices into the classroom, into the computer labs. And so we said, you know what, let's remove a whole aisle of computers and let's just make this a bring your own device. And we couldn't have done that without the in-kind donations from Green Standard, because then we were able to, okay, we have this idea, but we don't have the furniture pieces to make it happen. And then once we got Green Standards, and we saw what was available, then we picked the correct items that we thought would make this dream possible, and then we just play around with it, and it worked. So that was fun to be able to do that with little funding that we have.
If I could, one thing I loved hearing from all of you is how creativity and rethinking pieces sort of can sometimes make something that's not valuable. At the same time, some donors need to be educated a little bit in terms of what the limits are from a capacity standpoint. And I mean, often people will come in with a 20-year-old computer and say, hey, it turns on, and think that someone might get some use out of it. And of course, it's virtually impossible. And it's important to sort of respect the fact that when you are sort of doing the sort of work that we do, and we're providing items to other organizations and other individuals that need them, we don't want to burden them with something that is completely end of life, obviously. And it's great to see that we kind of share that sort of spirit of innovation and rethinking as it applies to circular economy. The one thing I do want to say about Redo Canada and things that people donate thinking that they're donating something really valuable are personal printers. And it's a huge problem. You've got a family that basically survives on $1,200 a month, and you're giving them a printer that may work, but in 6 months will require $150 in toner. And that's not helping people. And and that's an element of design that it's a bit of a personal mission of mine to find some way to turn a used printer into something useful. Anyway, that's one thing that I would say from an IT standpoint is a caution. If you're donating a printer, unless it's brand new in box or something that can be remarketed, well, it's the way things are set up, it's not necessarily doing anyone a favor.
We call it wish cycling over here.
Yeah.
And it sometimes it's a little bit lazy and self-serving. Sorry, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
That was really nice of you to bring us your trash. But you've just given us a problem that now we have to waste resources solving.
Right.
So, but I have never had that problem with Green Standards. Everything that has been brought to us has been, amazing and beautiful. And we're also able to select what works for us, and we're given pictures in advance. And when that happens, it's never an issue. It's the single client who tells me that no, they didn't have any cats, and then the sofa shows up and it's
right.
I wanted to reiterate that too, Carolyn, that it's very rarely the business community that's giving us extremely worn down items. Maybe the task chairs is where we get kind of into that realm with the really worn down items. But it's very rarely like furniture that's beaten up and scratched up and torn apart. they're usually really good about having an end of life cycle of items that are usually refreshed and updated. So I don't want the people that are in this room to think that they're generally the culprits for this and walk away thinking that we're berating them, when usually it's the individuals that are trying to do the right thing and they don't really know what to do with the things that have been sitting in their homes for years and years and years. And we're just fortunate to have people trying to do the right thing, and we're just the collateral damage in those situations.
So actually on that, I'd love to understand maybe a little bit, and I'm sure this will vary for all of you, but how often are you being approached by corporate donations versus individual personal donations? Maybe that's just like a rough percentage of one versus the other. But I'm curious kind of the frequency of contact on in-kind donations and then what that split might look like from corporate versus individual. And if you don't know, that's okay, guys. I didn't prep them for that.
I mean, I would get from our perspective, and this is an estimate, but I think it's probably an 80-20 kind of situation where, 20% of our donors are corporate, but they generate 80% of our value. And Green Standards obviously falls into that 20%. But it's a fairly, I think that's a fairly common, proportion. I might be wrong. I don't know.
For me, I guess I'm the outlier because the department that I manage is not really. This is not the.
You're right.
The prime. But so for me, I've only been working with Sarah and Green Standards, and so all in-kind donations have been directly from Green Standards, and I echo what Carolyn said. I mean, everything we receive from Green Standards has been, again, because we get to choose and pick, and we see the photos, so we have all the information before we check the box. So for us, I think we're a little different in that way.
So I would echo what Frank says. Our commercial or business vendor relationships are probably providing, it's not as high as 80, but they're providing the bulk of our donations. But we spend the bulk of our time working with individual donors because it's just more time consuming. But a volume donation from Green Standards or Crate and Barrel or whoever is, fills the warehouse in a way that individual donors aren't doing. So it's a hugely valuable relationship for us to have, which is why I started this conversation with, woo, so exciting.
I agree with Carolyn, Francisco. I agree that the corporate world is our biggest volume donations. We do operate with a freight budget. We work with retailers to help with their sustainability models. So instead of throwing away items that maybe old SKUs are no longer in market anymore, and instead of throwing that away, they look for charities. We market ourselves to that and hope that they would choose us to push these items out to teachers to help lower that cost of providing to their classrooms, which we know is about $800 to $1,000. And then also our local companies, our local facility managers, and companies similar to Green Standards that are doing these office clear outs. So it's very much the corporate runs the volume, but we do about 18 to 20 individual donations a week, I would say. And then they fluctuate from one bag to a whole truckload or a whole trunk load of randomness that is fun for us to sort through and see what people have in their houses.
Great. So thank you for sharing all that. I'd love to also pivot this a little bit and where we can open up even more about the organizations, and what the future looks like when it comes to the upcoming year, upcoming in-kind donations. So looking into 2026, since it is just early January now, I'd love for you guys to think about, like, what are the biggest challenges or uncertainties that you guys are preparing for as you head into a new year? I'm sure every year you've got new goals, and what are the things that are crossing your mind as important to figure out, whether it's a challenge or an uncertainty or something you are preparing yourselves for?
I can jump in here. I guess it's financial. We're seeing lots of cuts in education and everywhere else. But for us, is just making sure that what we can extend every little bit of what we have to make it last as much as expanding the life cycle of our furniture, figuring out new ways, being creative. Uh, like many of the panel here has mentioned, being creative is key here. Making sure things last, because for us, sometimes students don't treat their furniture as nicely as they should, and so we're always thinking about how can we make things last. And so, but having the opportunity to work with Green Standards has really helped us tremendously financially. As we lose funding, we lean more towards these in-kind donations. So we've been very strategic as to reaching out, figuring out what we need, and making it last as long as it can for the year, for the full semester and year long.
Great, thanks. I know it's not easy to open up about challenges. We always want to focus on the positive, but those challenges are realities. And the more we can learn, the more together we can figure out how to solve them. So would love for anyone else to chime in if you do have any other challenges or uncertainties that you're willing to speak to.
Yeah, as Jose mentioned, the financial changes in education with what is public versus private versus all of the changing styles of education and funding therein. How does that affect our model? How does that affect us as a third party provider of supplies to educators and what we deem as people in need? How does that affect our model and our funding? Would be interesting to see as we go forward. And the donation cycle will be interesting to see as the economy is changing. I'm trying not to get too political with all of this, but we're all seeing headlines in the news and everything, and how everything is changing with ports and tariffs and all of that fun stuff. So just seeing how everybody responds to that in the donation model. And one thing that I've been kind of looking into also is liquidators and how they've gotten into the game for us as a charity and somebody that has taken donations. I've seen the growth of liquidators as somebody, I don't want to say competition, but as somebody that is stepping in and kind of purchasing items that may have been donated in the past and then reselling those off. And so how does that Venn diagram of items work out in the grand scheme of things, and how do people like us start to work with liquidators, and when their spaces become overburdened with items that they're unable to sell, and what does their donation models look like, and that landscape look like?
Right. So we actually, sorry, go ahead, Carolyn. Finish up and then I'll go. We do have a question in as well. So after you, we'll get to the question.
We are seeing huge challenges in the housing space. The need is only growing, but the funding, I'll be as political as anybody wants me to be. The first thing is that furniture is not considered essential. You cannot find one single government document that states that furniture is essential. So we're already up against that. And then when the partners that we work with, all the social agencies that we work with over 120 social agencies in over 12 counties, because nobody else is offering what we offer. We partner with them. So I'm raising half of the money that this costs and asking them to bring in half of the money with their grant funding, et cetera. If they don't have any grants, they can't. So that leaves it to me to either pony up all of it, which puts a pressure on me for the fundraising. And the growth has already been astronomical. So last fiscal year, we served 800 households, but those numbers are down because we're just not getting the same requests. So we're trying to meet the need in a way that, okay, where can we meet the need in a way that's supported by the funding that is out there? So we're just having to be really creative with that. So we're doing a lot of, there's a lot of private funding out there, and we're just, I was an interior designer before I started a nonprofit. Let me go find the other nonprofit. So we're just trying to be as creative as we can to just help as many and keep growing, helping more people, because we know the need isn't stopping and we know the need isn't shrinking. So, but the funding, the government funding is. So we just got to keep at it, keep hammering it, which is why the items coming from Green Standard and why this community that's listening to this, the more you donate that doesn't go to landfill, the better off we all are, because we don't have to try and find it a different way. So please.
Okay, so there's two questions that have come through. So the first one is related to tech. So are there any technological gaps in in-kind donations that you wish were filled?
What does that mean?
Yeah, I think Green Standards somewhat fills that gap in helping us identify items that are becoming available to us, and then getting those items to us as a charity. So they're helping with the logistical side, and then making it known what items are available to charities. But I do see that kind of as a overall gap. There's not really a centralized location for the corporate community to put items out into the world of, I want to donate these items. I want these items to go to a good place. Here you go. Somebody come get them from me. The corporate world kind of has to put that work in, look for a charity, look for a place to give it to, make the phone call, and do a lot of work or pay a company to make that happen for them. So there is kind of a gap there that could be filled. How you can profit off of that, good luck. Have fun. But there is something for you there, Tom.
Right. Tom, who wrote that, hopefully that helps address the question. If that question had a different meaning, please write us back again and we'll readdress it.
Yeah.
The second question that came through is, when receiving in-kind donations, what processes do you use to manage release of liability concerns, both for the donor and your organization? So I'll speak to that for a moment from what we do at Green Standards, but then for those, donations you do outside of Green Standards, would love for your comments as well. So at Green Standards, before any donation is delivered, we do have a paperwork package that all nonprofits are required to review and sign in advance of delivery. So this does cover terms, conditions, and a huge release of liability, ensuring that the client is released of all aspects, and that as soon as the product actually hits the floor or the property of the nonprofit, it officially becomes an item belonging to the nonprofit. In our case, we do everything on behalf of the client. So therefore, the client also remains anonymous, and therefore, should something happen, should someone, well, knock on wood, but fall off a chair, they can approach us if they need to discuss anything, but they are unable to just go after the client, because in all paperwork and along the full process, the client is never revealed.
For us at Make It Home, we have a similar, it's not quite as long as Green Standards legal contract that we signed, but we have a similar contract that we enter into with the social agency that is contracting with us to give items to the client. But we are also making sure that we have in intake, we call it triage. So we go through every item and make sure everything is stable. If there's anything wrong that needs to be fixed, it's being sent to the workshop and being taken care of, so that nothing goes out the door with any drama. But we would never, I know that that's a trust issue, but we would never go back to a donor and say, I can't believe you gave me this thing that had this thing and it hurt no. It's, once you give it to us, we absorb all of that. And that's why we have to raise money to spend huge amounts on liability insurance.
Just jumping on what Carolyn was saying, it's really relevant. It's like once that piece of equipment or the device or item or whatever it is ends up the property of the charity, all of a sudden it's your responsibility somehow. And you've got to clarify where that demarcation is and what the chain of custody is. This is the whole, and on our side, we have data concerns. People drop off laptops and they're concerned about what sort of data might be on there. And we make a commitment around making sure that data is taken care of, and we accept responsibility about that. We can issue a tax receipt, it's another $12. But the point is the process of coordinating a donation, particularly if it's a large one, is such that we actually invested quite a bit of time and thought and a bit of money as well in developing a program basically or a portal that is basically just an intake management system that at the end of the day connects a donation with a particular donor. And in Canada, we issue tax receipts, in-kind tax receipts. I'm not sure how common that is in the US, but we will, we'll do a fair market valuation and we'll issue a tax receipt for what it's worth. And that process is burdensome, but it's important. You've got to be able to explain to someone what happened to something that they dropped off, and you've got to be able to connect that device ultimately with a source somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So regretfully, in the past we have had conversations with larger vendors who would not give us items that they deemed damaged because their legal department decided that they couldn't risk the liability of giving those items to us. And at the end of the day, it's furniture, and we have a workshop, we can fix it. It's wood. It's not come on. But they just wouldn't donate any damaged items.
Right.
I think that was rooted in other things, but anyway, we have our clients sign off on that. So there would never be any blowback to a donor in any way, shape, or form. Once it's like you said, Sarah, once it's dropped off to us, it's no longer that donor's. It's our responsibility.
Yeah. So same.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd love to go into my sort of last question, where I hope you each can have some thoughtful pieces on this, but this is really to benefit everyone here. So if you could give donors one piece of advice before their next office clean out, whether it's a relocation, a renovation, a closure, I would just love to hear from you. This is a chance for you guys to share your thoughts, your feelings. Like, what do you guys wish donors could learn from this process? And, what advice could they take going into their next decommissioning?
Yeah, giving us time is always the most important thing for us here in Indianapolis. We have two people that can drive our vehicle realistically, and I'm one of them as the director of logistics. So I'm very frequently in meetings planning one of our three massive events, and two of them are within a month of each other. And they're both coming up right now. So when we get these big moves that are happening, we just don't have a ton of leeway when someone's like, I've got to be out in a week and I've got 500 chairs for you. It's we don't have as much flexibility as we would love to have to help you guys. So that's kind of bouncing off of my point earlier of kind of helping us with having things sorted and maybe boxed up and ready for us, so we can get in and get out of your hair very quickly, and having that lead up time to plan and be ready to in, out, and be out of your hair as quickly as possible and get your space cleaned out so that you can move on to your task of working with those wonderful landlords that we all love working with.
One of the things that I think is very important for everyone to understand, personally as well as professionally, is that just because you've decided that you don't need the furniture anymore, that does not mean that it's no longer your responsibility. Furniture is your responsibility. The things you own are your responsibility until they get into the hands of somebody else that can use them. It is not responsible to send them to the landfill. It is not responsible to say, well, if you can't make it happen in 3 days, well, then I'm just going to have to send it all to the landfill. Planning and, knowing when the lease is up, knowing, like Zach just said, but that kind of planning, so that, and unfortunately it does cost to make that happen, but to just throw your hands up and say, well, we don't have the wherewithal to make that happen, that's just poor citizenship. So I'm kind of straightforward on that one. It's all of our responsibility to take care of the planet, and facilities managers, that's your job. So please help our grandchildren keep the planet safe.
I think a lot of people may not actually realize there's still a cost to landfill. We can't get away from costs.
Yeah.
So let's do our best to redirect those costs in the best way and actually find the modes of repurpose rather than the cost to landfill.
Right. You still got to transport it.
Yeah. Frank, I'm going to slightly put you on the spot, but when we met a few weeks back, you talked about a really interesting piece around that, about, you wish that people learned more that when it comes to IT and e-waste, taking green standards out of the picture, like if they can't get to you or an organization like you, there are things to think about. So if you don't mind, I want to put you on the spot because I do think that that's an area that as an overall, we don't have enough knowledge in what it looks like and what we do, as technology is changing so rapidly now.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I think it depends on sort of local infrastructure that supports electronic waste processing. And I mean, in Canada, and I'm sure it's like that in the rest of the US, in most of the US as well, like we have pretty sophisticated, robust electronic recycling capacity. And so if it is, an older printer, a 20-year-old computer without a hard drive in it, the reality is there are transfer stations. There are several transfer stations in Toronto, but in Vancouver, there's 2 of them that I know of, where you can literally just go and drop it off. And if there isn't and what happens once you drop it off, though, is it'll end up being collected and aggregated, and fairly close to home, there will be some facility that's effectively like a massive grinder that will separate the components of that equipment, of those devices, and you'll end up with your plastics, you'll end up with your different metals, and they will be reintroduced into the supply chain. And that's not a that from a recycling standpoint is completely probably the most effective way of dealing with those particular products that don't have an extended life. Is that what you were getting at, Sarah?
Yeah, we'd gotten into a really nice chat about just, I think, the IT, but it goes with the furniture as well. And I think it's a great way to sort of wrap this, that please think about next steps. Planning out as far as you can is always fantastic, but take a few minutes to do a little bit of research, because if we don't process items in the right way, so if they can't be reused, whether it's within your organization or donated to someone else, what do we do with it next? And it is important to pause and think about the sustainability aspect of it. So let's make sure we're looking into sending pieces to the right places, especially when it comes to e-waste. There's batteries and pieces that can be harmful if it's not taken care of in the right way. So please do be mindful of what we do with those items that aren't getting repurposed back into, circular economy, whether it's with you or with someone else. So I think that leads nicely. We went through this a little bit backwards, but that was the point of conversational of where does this conversation take us? But, for any of us that maybe haven't looked up green standards or don't know what we do, we work with organizations to help you repurpose those items as much as possible. We look to maximize the value of your assets by donating them, selling them if they might have value, and if they do face end of life, figuring out the right facilities to ensure that we are doing it in the most sustainable way possible. And, our goal really is to highlight nonprofits and really execute these logistics to make it easier for everybody. So we come into an office, or storage or a warehouse, we clear it out on your behalf, and we work to donate as much and keep it going and share those results with you guys at the end of the day. So I had this up before, but this is just some pictures of some of the fun things we've done along the way. Not everything is super corporate, just so you can get a little laugh out of this, but you think office, you think cubicles, you think task chairs, you think tables, but we also look at pallets of paper. We see kegerators, we've done forklifts, we've done thousands of clocks. So really anything that can come out of the space, we look at with a critical eye and say, what can we do with this? Who can we find? So don't be shy when it comes to figuring out what you need to do with your space. We hope that you'll consider working with someone like us at Green Standards, but at the end of the day, it's to make sure you're doing the best you can within your region. And that's why we wanted to highlight 4 different organizations in 4 different regions, in 4 different industries, just to show you what an impact we can have to so many different people out there. So with that, we just hope that you will continue to think about what to do and plan ahead so that your actions can really have a grand impact on those on the ground. If, of course, anyone has any other questions, you are welcome to throw them in now. We do have a few extra minutes we can stay on, but you can contact us at any time. All right, well, I guess if there's no other, I don't know if Cassandra or Jack, you see any other questions, but if not, we'll hand it back over to you, and we thank everyone for your time.
Thank you.